Hello everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So, welcome everyone. So myself, Somasundaram Mahesh, and I'm an Android engineer over there. And throughout my career, I have been working in Android apps. I have been working in Android apps for almost 9+ years, and today I'm excited to present you and how to develop an application using KMP. So, how many of you are Kotlin? How many of you know Kotlin? Wow, nice to see. How many of you are tried KMM or KMP? Okay, few hands. Okay, so today I don't have any presentation, so I don't want to bore you with things that you can already see on the internet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a live demo where I have a very ambitious thought of doing backend Android app, iOS app, everything in Kotlin in next 50 minutes. Okay, so that's the thought I have, and let's see how far we can go. I hope I can complete it as well. Okay, so I'll be using a bunch of frameworks and already generated code. It's not something that code that I have written already. It would be available on the internet, and I will be downloading that. Basically, those are the templates for KMP and templates for backend, the Spring Boot, things like that. Okay. So let's get started. I'm starting with a clean slate. Yeah. I hope the audio is clear now. Yeah. So I'm starting with a clean slate. So firstly, let's open the browser. Directly we will go to start.spring.io. Okay, so here is where I am going to download an project. So basically we will be using Gradle Kotlin. The language would be Kotlin, and Spring Boot, the latest version. And we will give a group name. I am going to call this GDGChennai, and this would be Kotlin, or let me call it msomo, and I'm going to generate it. So I'm using Java 17 and clicking on the generate button. So this would download me a zip folder, a Spring Initializer zip folder. I'm going to extract that out, opening my Finder, downloads, and I have it here. Or let me put this in dev experiments. So yesterday I tried it out. So those are the two packages. In case I'm stuck or I don't know the code that I'm going to write, I will open that and see. So I'm pasting it here, extracting the folder, and now I'm opening the IntelliJ. Open dev experiments, msomo, and open. So now the project is being set. So this is going to be our backend. Okay, and what we are going to do in the backend is basically we are how many of you are using REST API for communication? Nice. How many of you are using GraphQL? Okay. Combined with a REST API or anything with something like a protobuf. Yeah. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to write this project in GraphQL. Okay. So our backend would be GraphQL, so that I need not generate the models and all of those. I can directly pull it on the KMP side. Okay. So I would be depending on the time, I would either choose KMP and write a little of shift code. If not, I'll directly use the KMM compose and directly write the Kotlin code itself for the Android and iOS. So we'll come to that later. For now, let's focus on the backend. Okay. So we have SRC and main and Kotlin, and we have the application. So firstly, let's open the build.gradle and add a few dependencies. Okay, so here is where I have to start coding. So let me refer the previous project so that it's a little easier. So basically we would need a few things here. Firstly, the Spring Boot is already here. We have it, JVM Spring Boot. We will need the Kotlin serialization. So let's add it. And then, yeah, that should be on the plugin. And on dependencies, I'll add a bunch of dependencies. Spring Boot is already there. Yes. And we will start with Kotlin Reflect. So we will use Kotlin Reflect and Kotlin serialization and also date time, and then the GraphQL. So this is these are the dependencies. I'm just adding it, and I think we should be good. Yeah, let's build it. So what we are doing right now is just adding Gradle dependencies, and this is written in Kotlin KTS. So yeah, all the dependencies are done, and now we'll start with the server. So that would start from the main function over here, and Spring Boot is again your dependency injection is handled directly, like if you're familiar with Android, you use Dagger and Hilt, right? So same like that, we would be doing that in Spring Boot. So that is the annotation that you are seeing over here. Okay, so let's start with this. So basically, I'll just add an initializer in the main. We don't want arguments. Let's remove that. Okay, our Gradle sync did not do. Yeah. Build is successful. Okay. I'm just checking the task so that if it is generated, yeah, and let's try running it. Okay, we don't have Maven Central in our project. Okay, we do have it. Okay. Sure. Is it better now? Okay, the internet is a little slow here, so it's taking time. Let me get there. Yeah, now we should be at initializers. add initializers, and then so basically we are adding an initializer with beans. So we would do that, and we will have our root query. So basically this would be your query where all your data is going to be returned. So let's call it root query, where we extend the query of GraphQL and define them. So let's start with a function called hello, which would return us hello GDGChennai, and pass the root query over here. Okay, so this should do. Let's quickly check it on our browser if this is running. So Spring Boot, it would start with this. So if you want to directly write it in Gradle, you can run this application task boot run, or you can just click on this if you are using the IntelliJ. So it is building now, and it is okay, throwing an exception. What was that? Okay, I'll run this project that is not yet compiled because of internet. I'll quickly run this project and show you. So yeah, this is starting the netty on 880 port. So let's go to our browser and go to localhost 880/playground, and we have this code. So let's query for, so here this is a playground which Spring Boot provides you automatically. So we can directly click on the docs and see what is there. So this is having the hello string, and the schema also you can look at it. So if we query for hello, and it's also autocomplete, like not best as the IntelliJ IDE, but still you should be able to manage here. And when you run it, we get the output that we wanted, hello GDGChennai. Okay, so next thing, what I'll do is like I have taken a dump of JSON from our GDGChennai GitHub repository. That's a public repository where the today's agenda and other things are there. So I have taken a dump of it and added it in the folder called, added it in the file called alldata.json. And we will be using this JSON to provide it. So on your real time, you would connect to a database and get the information from there and post it. Okay. So here I'm just going to use this JSON, and we will show it. So this JSON, you can just copy this JSON, and you can quickly. I'll use this plugin on IntelliJ Kotlin data class from JSON. So if you do this and paste the JSON here and give it data as the name and click on generate, it will generate all the model data classes for me. So basically it has an agenda, and then it has data with agenda and a room, the room ID and room name. So basically it will generate all the classes for me. And we have it here. Now we will map the data and pass it to a function. So let's say we want to give, we want to query for all the sessions. Okay, so let's say sessions, and here is what we will need the JSON data. So how to get the JSON data? What we will do, firstly we will have to convert all our data models to a serializable. So let's give that. I'm using Kotlin serializable so that it will serialize all the data. And these are nested data classes, so you can have it in a single file like I have done here. Okay, so you can do that, and then we will convert this into a JSON data by using this function. So basically what I'm doing to do is we are importing the data. Lazily we are loading the data class in a Java class loader, get the resource from all data.json, which is the JSON that we have, and decoding it as a stream. So it is going to give me a stream of data, and it's going to store it in the variable JSON data. So then we can directly refer to this JSON data over here and get all the agendas basically. Okay, so this would provide us with all the agenda. So let's quickly run this. I'm just coding it on the new project, but I'm actually running the old project because all the Gradle tasks are not built on the new project. Okay, so let's run this. And also you can add description so that the outside world, whoever is using your GraphQL, they will be able to get all the data. Okay, understand what is happening when using this function. So we call it as sessions, and we fetch all the agendas, and we are showing it. So let's quickly run this again. So now our server will be killed, and it would start again. And now if we go to our browser, this hello is throwing an error because we deleted that hello function. So let's change it to sessions, and you can see autocomplete is there, and it also says the description get all sessions. So let's select the sessions, and inside the sessions, so I'll quickly open the JSON and show you how it is, or let's quickly look at our data class agendas. So basically it has an image URLs, name, session, show image boolean, show multiple image boolean, and then a time and a room ID. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to print only few. The purpose of using GraphQL is you don't want to send a lot of data on the network, and the client would choose only 2 or 3 fields from it, right? So you can query for whatever data that you want from the client, and it can get only that data. So first let's check if we are able to grab the name alone. Yes. Sure. I hope it's better now. Yeah? Okay. Sure. Does it work? Better? Fine? Yeah. So let's get the name. So here as a type, you can see that it is also again autofilling all the fields that we have. Like so let's go with the name and click on run. So we are getting the name. So the first thing was registration, and then we had an intro, and then we had a speaker Navneet, and then Aishwarya, and then lunch, and so on. So we are getting the names. So let's also print the room ID. Okay, we don't have the room ID because that is declared as a private over here. I'm removing the private just for showing you the room ID, and rerun. I'm quitting the server and restarting. So now we should have the room ID also present here. So if I do it here, it says the room ID is main hall, and then we have Ampy hall, Raman hall, and so on. And this is where you are. I'm giving the talk. This room ID doesn't even though you are able to read it here, it's not a complete name, right? So let's actually query the room ID JSON and get the value from it. Okay, so for that I don't want the client to know about the room ID, so I'll make it private and then create a function which would filter the rooms. Basically, if you look at the JSON, we have something called rooms, which has the room ID and the room name. So basically, we don't want this room ID, but we want this room name. Okay. So what I'm going to do is make this room ID a private field so that the client will not be able to query that. Instead, they can query on the rooms directly. And here I'm just mapping with the room ID. Okay. So now if I rerun this, room ID should throw an error. Yeah, it's throwing an error. But instead of that, we should be able to query the rooms. And inside that, I can get the room name. And let's click on run. Yeah. So now it says the registration is at the main hall and so on. So this is the backend. I hope this is clear. Any doubts so far?
The helper function is also generated by the plugin.
Which helper function?
Which you use for take rooms from domain.
This one.
Yeah.
No, this one I wrote. So JSON data.rooms.filter, filter it by the room ID and map it. So this was generated. This was the data class that was generated. I'll decrease the font a little bit. Yeah. What happened? Yeah. So this was the generated function. I made this private and also added rooms. And how to fetch the rooms? On a real world, you will fetch the room from a different DB or a different table, whatever you want. On this, I'm querying the same JSON data and mapping it with the room ID. So this would be your complete function, like a Kotlin function where you will bring the data and give it out. So yeah. So this function I wrote. Clear? Any doubts on the backend so far? Yeah.
Not exactly backend, but we use terminal file and build
Sorry.
we use terminal file,
TOML. Yeah.
Like, any reason for that, or like?
For dependencies. We can use it. I just, as you saw, I just downloaded it from the thing. So that supported, did not support TOML. But if I'm doing it, I would do it with TOML. Yeah.
But there is support for it.
Yeah, there is support for it completely.
So, and the reflect that you are using, how different is it from the standard library?
Which one?
Kotlin reflect.
Kotlin Reflect. No, it's the same library. JetBrains Kotlin Reflect. Same. Nothing. I'm not using any external libraries. Everything is like from JetBrains, and this one is from Expedia Group, which is the equivalent to Apollo GraphQL on the client side. Clear? Any more doubts? How are we on the time? Yeah. Let's start the app. It's fine? Yeah? Okay. So let this server run and let's go to the app. So again, for app, I'm not going to do it directly from the scratch, but kind of from the scratch. So we will download it from Kotlin Multi. With the respect to time, I will directly use Kotlin Compose. I don't want to open Xcode and waste much more time. We'll go with Kotlin Compose so that it will support Android as well as iOS. Okay, so let's check. Also, that should be a generator. I came to a wrong place. Kotlin KMM generator. This wizard. Yeah, so here you can create an Kotlin Multiplatform project and download it same like our backend project as a zip file. But for this demo, I will use it from a template gallery. I'll use this template, shared UI multi-platform. So Android and iOS code would be in Compose. You can also create a new project from here with the same, but I want the view model, the repository layer, everything to be already set. So I'm going to use this template gallery. I'm downloading it. It's another zip file. And let's open this. Let's move this to our dev experiments. And this is going to be main. Yeah, let's open. Why is my Xcode running? Okay, let it run. Android Studio. And open dev experiments, Kotlin main. And we should be good over here. Hopefully internet works. Gradle downloads. So yeah, while it downloads, what is the build time of your projects, Android projects or Kotlin projects? What is the build time? 2 minutes, 1 minute, 15 minutes, 10, okay. Any other higher number? More than 10? No? How many modules do you have in your Android projects? 7. Okay. Anyone else? Higher numbers?
30.
30? Okay. How many? 70. 17. Okay. Okay. So at my workplace, we have a build time of if you are building in an Intel machine, Intel Mac machine, it would take approximately 18 to 20 minutes. And if you're building in an M1 or M3, it would take 12 minutes. So that's the build time of the leading OTT app that you have it on your device. Okay, so yeah, this is built. We will quickly run it on the emulator. So because of that practice of waiting of 20 minutes, I don't build it at my local machine at all. I always rely on the GitHub CLI. In fact, I have an terminal command just to trigger the build on the Intel GitHub CLI and just wait. It will give me a build on the Slack. I'll download it and I'll install it. So that's how the work goes. So yeah, this is working. So basically, they have an lazy grid which is rendering all the images. So we will quickly change all of these into our data. Okay. So before that, we will have to introduce a few things here, like GraphQL is not used here. So we'll go to the Gradle. So here we will use the TOML because this project comes with it and everyone loves TOML. Where do I go? Yeah, here we have the TOML. So let's define things here. I don't want to type each and everything, so I'll use my yesterday night project where I did all of this. Where's the TOML? Spoilers. Okay, we have a bunch of things. Let's start from the TOML. So let's quit this, make the screen bigger. I hope the font is good. So I'm declaring a plugin, Apollo GraphQL plugin here. And we have not defined the version. Let's quickly define it. I believe 4 dot something. Yeah, 4.0.1. So we have it. And the implementation would do Apollo GraphQL, same version. Let's do this here. And let's sync it. Okay, so after this, you have a folder called Compose app. Inside that you have the SRC folder. Inside that you will have the Android project, the common main, and then the iOS main. So iOS main would be your iOS project. We ran the Android project and saw it on the emulator. If we run it on the iOS project, you will see it on the iPhone. So I'll once we are done with the demo, I'll run it on the iPhone also and show you. So common main will have all the common things, and since we are using Compose, we will touch only the common main folder for now, and we will add things over there. Okay, so let's quickly do things. So there is a Kotlin folder, and this is the build.gradle. We will have to add the plugin. So let's quickly add the plugins, and everything else remains the same. This little plugin, we will add it. So basically, REST API is used here. We are just going to change that layer into GraphQL, and we are going to render it. We might have to tweak the screen UI also, just because we don't have much images, so we'll have to tweak the screen a little. We'll do that. And as soon as you add this GraphQL, now what you can do, you need not define all the data classes. Okay, so you can actually hit the GraphQL and generate all the data classes. So in order to do that, you will have to define the endpoints. Okay, so there is an Apollo structure over here. I'm just copying this, and we will add it in our project over here. This should be our project name, GDGChennai Somu. This is what we defined. So what we are telling is the endpoint is localhost 880/GraphQL. So we saw it on the playground. I hope this is visible. And we are also telling the schema file should be downloaded as schema.graphqls and should be present in this common main/GraphQL. So as of now, we don't have that folder on the common main. So let's quickly sync the project and run the task so that the schema is downloaded. So we are not going to do anything over here like defining the models and all of those. GraphQL is going to give us all of those. And imagine how many integers versus strings you would be defining all of those. All of those will be taken care automatically by this plugin. Okay, so let's quickly run the task. So there is an Apollo folder over here on the task. I hope it's visible. And here I'm going to run download service Apollo schema from introspecation. So running it, Gradle is starting, and it is going to download from my local host itself and add it. So you can see now the GraphQL folder is generated, and also it has the schema.graphqls. So opening that, we have our all the data that are defined, agenda, query. In fact, it also brought the query that we wrote, the sessions query that we wrote. Then we have the rooms and all of those. Okay, so this is the file that is all automatically generated. So let's start using it. Any doubts so far? How did we generate the models? Yeah, okay. I stepped on something. Yeah, luckily nothing happened. Okay, where are we? Yeah, we define things, and now let's go to our project. So most of the things are going to remain the same. The DI coin is used here, and this is using Ktor. They have a generic name called Museum API. So let's check the Museum API. This is a REST API that they are calling, and they are getting the class. So we will change this class alone and get our new data. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this Museum API and call this sessions
GraphQL API. Sessions GraphQL API, this should implement here. We don't want an HTTP client, but instead we want an Apollo client. We will define this in Coin later. So this should be, this is not Ktal, this is Apollo session API, and we don't want this. And here, so we have the Apollo client, and we can query on it. So how do we query on it? Yeah, you can just say query, my bad. You can query on it. Now comes the interesting part, what to query. We need to query the sessions that we wrote there, right? So that should be generated automatically, and that should be present in the get all sessions query. So let's try if that is generated. No, it's not generated in our project yet. So how do we do that? For now, let's comment this and rebuild the project. I'm rebuilding the project. So now all of those data classes are going to be generated. Why? Because we wrote in our Gradle saying generate Kotlin models set equal to true. Okay. So now when I rebuild this project, all the Kotlin models are going to be built. Okay, Gradle is taking time. Okay, it's also trying to build the iOS app. Xcode is also being used. Let it take its time. It's a one-time thing. Let it do. Okay. Okay. How many of you are using KMP on production? Any? Not yet. Looking to use it? Okay. Okay. Nice. So I have done a couple of projects on KMP, and those are just like a hobby projects. And those have hit the production as well. It's pretty good. Like the end user doesn't even know what is under the hood, so it's working. But there are lots of changes happened after that. After I did. So when I did something on KMM, the font was not natively supported. So I had to write the expect and actual functions on iOS and Android separately. And the font I have to store it on iOS and also on Android separately on the resource. Now it's all easily available. Like you can just maintain it on the common resource. At the point when I did, there was no common resource. So I have to have it in multiple places and build that for the first time. So I also had to open Shift and write the scripts for building it and all of those. But now it's pretty easy. So if you are looking to have both Android and iOS app, I would highly encourage you to try KMM. Okay, this is taking a lot of time than expected. So far, any thoughts? Any doubts?
So I have a doubt.
Yeah.
What about Disney software is using any of our own, or they are moving towards native? They are in a native.
Yeah. We use a complete native approach. KMM, we use it for small services. So we have a bunch of modules across like 100 plus modules. So certain modules are in KMM. So only the business logics are shared, like for certain services where you have to do multiple business logics. Those are shared between iOS and Android, but not a full-fledged KMM.
So I have two questions. One is, so how easy is it to port from normal from a Kotlin to Kotlin in the current? Is I have
Yeah, that is very easy actually. So you have an Android app in already written in Kotlin. You can port it to. So if you have already have multiple modules, you can just bring that modules into the common main and share the logic with iOS. If not, you will have to extract it into multiple modules. And UI is going to be separate for Android, and for iOS it is going to be separate. But if you prefer using, if your project is already using Compose on Android, you can quickly switch it to KMM Compose and also start using it on iOS. So yeah.
if you were to write Disney Hotstar in KMM, right now will it be compatible?
Yes, because we did an re-arc couple of years back, and that was written completely on Jetpack Compose. We started from Jetpack Compose Alpha, and we were doing it. So all our components are in Compose. So certain animations and things might not be supported in JetBrains Compose. Those alone we might have to render on the canvas or do something over there. But most of the components would be readily just the imports we will have to switch, and it will start working on iOS.
Controls, navigation.
Yeah, navigation, again there are different libraries. So we use Android X navigation, so that has to be replaced with something else. So we will have to look at each libraries and change it. In fact, Room is supported, and you can use that. So yeah, it's doable. So there is one app you can look at. It's an open source TIVI app, which is maintained by Chris Baines. So he converted his Compose. It's a pretty large app. You can look at like an a very complex images and all. Most of the things are touched there. And he migrated it from the Android Compose to the Kotlin Compose and released it on both App Store and Play Store. So he has a very good blog. You can read about it. It was a very minimal effort, and his PR, if you look at the PR where he changed from Android to the Kotlin Compose, it has around 800 lines of change, and he was able to do it. So it's pretty easy, and you can try it out. Yeah. Okay, this is taking a lot of time. I'll stop this here. What happened? Is the downloading taking a lot of time? No download request. Cleaning it. Clean is done. Okay, I'll manually run this task. Rebuilding will do it will do a lot of things on Xcode as well. So let's pause there and let's manually run this on the terminal. So basically what I'm going to tell is download Apollo schema. I'm going to run this task, and endpoint would be my GraphQL, and the schema should be downloaded as a JSON. And now I will have the GraphQL here. The schema and the JSON is also present. And let's create our query, which should be queries.graphql. And here I have just pasted the same thing that we did it on the playground. We don't want this JSON, and this GraphQL should help us. So right now this sessions and everything are not used. So once we build it, why is it not building? Okay, I'll walk you through the code while it builds. So basically what we are going to tell is, we are going to get all sessions query dot data. So this get all sessions query is a data model that I did not write. It is coming from the query itself directly. Okay, so this is generated data class which I'm using, and the data is the data. This is the data class that it does. This code is auto generated. Okay, so this was the code I was expecting to be generated, but it's taking a lot of time, so I'm just walking you through the project. And it has all the adapters, the root field, the data classes that we want, and we are interested in this sessions. So what we will do is client query get all session query. This is from here. Response.execute. So same like your OKHTTP.execute. You execute and then give the data or throw the error. Okay, and on throwing the error we catch and we return a null. If not, we return the data directly. So the data is of type get all sessions query dot data, and it's a nullable data. Okay, so this is still building. Okay, so we will write this, and then now we will have to use this in our dependency injection, which is the coin. So let's go to the coin folder file. Okay, this is built finally. Yeah. So we got com.gdgchennai.msomo.get all sessions query, and we got the data. And now we will have to provide a Apollo client to it. Okay. So we will go to the coin, and we don't want the ktar, which is used here, HTTP client. We will remove this and instead define our client from Apollo client, and Apollo client comes with the builder. I did this today morning. Did they change it? Oh, builder bcaps. Yeah, and so if we are using the emulator, right? So if we have to provide a local host, if we provide it as a local host, it would refer itself as the local host. So I'll be using this 10.2.2, which is your system's local host, and 880 and GraphQL. And we will set the server URL to the URL and build it. Okay, so this would provide you a client, and this is a single. So this will give us the client, which we can directly use it. And let's remove this ktar museum API because we don't want this. So let's remove this file. It's going to create panic on the folders, but let it be. We will define it with our sessions. We called it museum graph API, and this would also be, I think I defined it something like this. Yeah, and this would expect a get, which would provide me this Apollo client, and we are good. Let's clean up the imports. Okay, so we are good. Now we will have to map our, we changed our get data, so this should break somewhere. I think it will break. Okay, it's not used elsewhere. So let's quickly open the other files and check. So in interest of time, I'll get this from here. So basically, I will delete the detail view. We don't want it. I will delete screen alone. And here I have removed the images, and we will have only the items. And the item would map to an object, and we are using a collect state, and get objects is going to map it. So I'm going to map the time, the session, and the rooms. So if you remember on our playground, we had the rooms as a list, and so that we will get the first and the room name. Okay, so we define it here, and this would save the object, and this is going to get it from the sessions. And now let's quickly run this app. Meanwhile, I'll also start the Xcode so that we can see the output on the iOS as well. Or I can do it here itself. Yeah. Let it build. Build, yeah. And let's have the running device. Compose app. So this should fetch the data from our local itself. So since this is an HTTP request, you might have to add the manifest clear text, and then this would be on your emulator. And let's quickly run the iOS app as well. iOS, let it build. Should take a couple of minutes. I know I'm between your lunch. Let's get the output seen, and we should be done. Okay. Yeah, iOS starting. iPhone boot. I hear that the other world of Android is faster. Let's check that. Where is the app? Where is the app? Yes, the app is running. No data available. Oh, okay. This is HTTPS, and this is HTTP, and HTTPS is not cleared on the iOS. I wrote this line only on Android, so it's not fetching it. So I added this line, support clear text traffic equal to true. I might have to Google it for the iOS. I don't know. If any iOS developers, if you know, you can tell me. Else, yeah, if we do that, we will be able to get that data. So that's about it. Yeah, thanks for listening. And yeah, myself, Somasundaram Mahesh. You can follow me on Twitter and everywhere. msomu would be at most places. Yeah, I'm open for questions, and I'll be around here. I did try Flutter. I did one project on Flutter, but I didn't like it. Don't have much comments. Flutter versus KMM. I would still choose KMM for the performance and other things. Flutter is basically like painting on the canvas. So say for example, you can't have a OTT app on Flutter because there is something called DRM. You can't render the video on a canvas. The video has to be native. Only then Netflix and other things will work. So DRM will not work on Flutter. So there is no point for us to look at Flutter at all. So something like that. There are other cases as well. So if you're doing a very small app and you want to quickly do something, you can choose Flutter. Yeah. React Native. Yeah, again, React Native, I have done it long before. Personally, I don't have much comments on it. But when I did, it was not very stable, and it was also hitting the performance at multiple places. So we had to have a bridge and write Android separately and iOS separately, and then connect it. That's how the experience was then. I don't know now, but yeah. Okay. Okay, so the performance is good. Okay. No. React Native, yes, because you write a bridge and you can connect it. On Flutter, you. Yeah.
You were to write test doubles for this.
Sorry.
You were to write test doubles for this. Test doubles, beat, mark, beat, anything.
Test. Yeah.
Which folder would you choose to write? Like, let's say if you want to test the UI part, would you be like writing a separate code for like iOS and Android?
Yeah, I would still prefer writing it in the common main for most of my logic. And I would try to have most testable code on the common main itself. But if there are cases where you are writing an actual function and you want to test the actual function, then yes, on the other folders. That's my preference. I don't see there is a standard established yet for testing on KMM, or I'm not aware. I'm not sure.
Sorry to interrupt. Can we take the questions?
Yeah,
offline?
we'll discuss
Since
offline.
the time.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.